two grown men and a child and a robot on vacation together. There's nothing wrong with that.
There is nothing wrong with that, except I get worried about the power dynamic.
Hey, hold 1 second. Okay. Yeah, I will. Yeah. In my soundproof studio, I am apparently too loud for the podcast studio next door.
Go tell them to go fuck themselves.
Anyways, please continue. Welcome to the Mobile Armored Podcast Show, the podcast that transforms into a YouTube channel about theme parks. My name is Adam Moore, alongside my co-host and best friend, PJ McNerney. PJ, how's it going today?
I'm doing well. The sun is shining in the mountains, and things are getting a little warmer, which coincides very nicely with this episode, where thermodynamics has something to do with the plot.
I guess I'll point out that PJ is podcasting from his youngest daughter's bedroom. That's nice. What are we looking at there, PJ?
It's pink. It goes with everything. She likes other colors too, but pink just looks so good on her.
And on you as well. We're going to dive right into the episode called Solaria Park. Venom hides a heat ray weapon in an amusement park. That's it. And literally, that's it for the episode. That is all we get, really, from Venom about why they're doing what they're doing. PJ, a little bit of a quiz here. Pick your favorite Bond villain.
I'm weird. I mean, I like Robert Shaw's character in From Russia with Love, but I don't think anyone can deny that Goldfinger had the panache.
Sure. What is Goldfinger's goal in the movie?
Goldfinger's goal is to irradiate a whole bunch of gold to basically make it useless, such that his gold supply goes up in value.
Is it bonkers? Yeah. Does it make sense? 100%. PJ, why does Miles Mayhem build a giant heat ray?
At this point, I think he is just trying to upset his science division for making really complex stuff that could be commercialized. It is super bonkers why you do this. And furthermore, why you hide it inside of an amusement park.
Off the coast of Greece.
Off the coast of Greece, like somewhere in the Aegean Sea.
But why did he build the ray gun? What is he trying to do?
His stated goal is to control the Mediterranean.
Why? That's the question. Goldfinger has a very Miles Mayhem-esque plan in Bond.
Yeah.
Irradiate a bunch of gold. That's bonkers. Why? To increase the value of his gold reserves. Oh, that's weird, but smart.
Yeah.
Miles, bonkers idea. Build a heat ray and hide it in a theme park. Why? No reason given.
Yes, it's, again, Miles has showcased a real lack of geographical knowledge. Like, we talked about the trouble of the curvature of the Earth, is that
right.
Best case scenario at sea level, which is what they would be at, you've got like 3 miles. That's it. Maybe the statue of Zeus lets you see 5. So there's no way you can legitimately take over the Mediterranean from this small bit on the east side of it.
And again, and this is coming off another pretty bad episode in Magma Mole.
Yeah.
The very least a writer could do is just give a reason. It doesn't even matter. It could be, I'm building a heat ray in order to shoot planes out of the sky and ransom the nation of Greece for $1 billion. That's fine. It's a bonkers plan, but at least it has a goal. Miles has no reason for building it. He never mentions, other than to control the Mediterranean, for what reason. Come on, writers. PJ and I, as I've said before, we love this show, but I wish you would just try a little bit, just a little bit, to give a reason for why Miles is doing what he's doing. It would really improve the show in a major way if we just understood what the stakes are. That's what I'm getting at. There's no stakes. It's a giant heat ray. For what purpose? None. He hasn't threatened a single human being in this episode.
Other than M.A.S.K.
Other than M.A.S.K.
They could be trespassing on private property. So I'm not familiar with all the laws in Greece.
It's a stand your ground law in Greece, and that's why Miles built it. All right. We already pointed out we are in Greece. We open on this lovely seaside village off the coast of Greece, and a very nice sailboat, where we find Scott and T-Bob swabbing the deck. And PJ, Scott is not wearing his normal outfit. He's dressed in a dainty little sailor's outfit.
I know he's got more than one outfit of clothes. Questionable set of clothes. Like, what the hell is up with that outfit? But at the very least, he is not wearing a blue t-shirt and jeans.
He's wearing the outfit that they dressed 4-year-olds in for like the Sears portraits you used to buy in the 80s.
Yeah.
I definitely have one of them where I'm like a chubby little 3 or 4-year-old toddler wearing a sailor's outfit. But that's what 12-year-old Scott is dressed in in this episode. So Matt appears wearing a captain's hat because he's the captain. And he shouts, "Land ho!" Now, of course, they haven't been moving at all. They are literally anchored.
Yeah, I know.
Did he just wake up and notice they were anchored off the coast of an island?
Like in a previous episode where he was sitting down while grilling and we think he was drinking, I think he had a little bit of a bender the night before and he's just woken up late. And he's like, whoa, ho, land ho, because it seems like it's like 11 a.m. in the morning.
Matt asks, "Who's ready to go exploring? I had the Thunderhawk shipped ahead." Wow, the man will not go anywhere without that Camaro.
Yeah, I was like wondering about this because does he actually have a codependent relationship with his paramilitary group? Because we never see him hang out with friends outside of these folks. This is the second episode in a row where he's actually just rolling with Bruce.
He's on vacation with Bruce, 2 grown men and a child and a robot on vacation together. There's nothing wrong with that.
There is nothing wrong with that, except I get worried about the power dynamic. Like, we've sort of established that the M.A.S.K agents like work for M.A.S.K, and if there is something going on, that's great. I'm just sort of worried that it's like Bruce may want to get another job just to like keep things on the level and not be an HR violation.
He has another job. He's a toy designer.
Which is probably the company that Matt owns. This is what I'm saying. I did have this one theory, and so this is like me. I'm really trying to give the writers something here. We know Venom's there. It's in the tagline.
Mm-hmm.
So we've gotten this like trope of M.A.S.K happening to find out that Venom's at a particular spot on a regular basis. But if truly, and again, we have to lean into this idea that Matt actually wants to stop Venom. If he truly wanted to stop Venom, he'd bring the entire team to blast him away. What if we try to connect the dots with a previous bit where when Venom was going after the telescope, they planted some false leads? And what if this is a fairly common thing for Miles to do, which is why you can't just bring the whole team someplace, because it's like it's very likely to be a boondoggle. So I wonder, what if these agents actually have to go out to scout these areas on the possibility of Venom being there? And the episodes we happen to see are the ones where it doesn't turn out to be a boondoggle.
Here's my question. Why do they seem so surprised when Venom shows up? Especially Matt, who's behind it all. He's all hanging out in Greece and it's all fun. And then he's super shocked when Venom shows up.
Maybe it's like with the quality of the leads that are out there, Matt takes what he thinks are going to be the cushiest ones of them all. And when Venom's there, it's like, whoa, hold on. I did not expect this. I figured you're going to be doing a coup in Moscow or something like that.
That could be. But anyways, Scott says he's too tired to go exploring because sailing is really hard. And T-Bob's response is, "Sailing? You mean slaving?"
Jeez.
Yikes.
Yeah.
No one wants to go exploring with Matt because they're too tired.
Yeah. So Scott's response is, "Getting here is what made me tired. This sailing stuff is hard work." And Matt's like, "You're the one who wanted to learn about all this sailing a ship." So I think it's questionable for Matt to be blaming Scott for A, wanting to learn, which is a good thing, and B, just being honest about his feelings. It's also a huge boat, man. Did you notice how big it is?
It's giant.
And there's only 4 people on board, which is Bruce, Matt, Scott, and T-Bob. So either there's a lot more crew, which becomes an issue in a second, or there's so much automation, or maybe Scott and T-Bob really had to do all that labor.
Obviously, because Matt then goes on and says, "Okay, the crew is hereby granted 1 day to be lazy."
Matt has a very different idea of what vacations are about.
So anyways, Matt decides he's going to go explore on his own, and he hops into a little dinghy and drives off, leaving Scott and T-Bob behind with Bruce. Now, Scott and T-Bob are sunbathing, and Scott and T-Bob are both complaining about how tired their muscles are. And Scott says, "You're a machine. You can't be tired. Once again, you have no soul, and therefore no feelings, T-Bob."
I'm really wondering about if we need to introduce a new award. I'm going to call it the Roy Batty Award.
Referencing Roy Batty from Blade Runner.
Correct. And the criteria is if T-Bob acted like Roy Batty, would T-Bob crush someone's skull based on what they said to T-Bob? In the same way as just how Roy Batty killed Terrell. Because he gets hit so much with this no existence bit.
One of our fans online, do you remember who it was, PJ, had a theory about T-Bob? The theory was that they downloaded Andy Trakker's consciousness into T-Bob, and T-Bob's little cybertronic brain can't deal with that amount of info, and it's why he's completely insane. It is an interesting theory, for sure.
Maybe Scott was created or adopted for T-Bob to give poor Andy someone to play with.
Well, they are lying there. And then T-Bob's last line is, I bet they're going to want us to put out those flames. And Scott's like, what flames? And then we look up and we see the sail is on fire.
He's not emoting, by the way. So I'm wondering if T-Bob has really gotten into this existential ennui where it's starting to believe his own lifelessness. And then it's like, where does anything else matter? At some point, you hit nihilism.
He's not alive. He doesn't care. He's like, I can't die because I'm not alive. Catch me on fire. Melt me down for scrap. It's fine. Well, the boat becomes rapidly engulfed in flames. Pretty darn quick, actually. It's like a little fire on the mast, and then suddenly the whole boat is on fire.
Which is also questionable because it's a boat. It's going to be naturally covered with sprays of water, as well as like safety codes. So unless they're like covering it with kerosene, like I really was questioning why this thing caught on fire so quickly.
Thankfully, Matt has arrived at Thunderhawk, and he sees the fire. He drives to the shore, and I thought he was going to fly out to get them.
I did too.
Because that seemed like the obvious idea. But instead, he hops out of Thunderhawk, dives into the water, and swims out to meet them as they're coming in. And he gives Scott a big hug in the water, which is great. He actually cares about Scott, but maybe get to shore first. Don't hug your son and pull him underwater.
With your massive frame.
And like zero body fat.
I do want to call out one thing. If you look, Bruce does some Hondo level rescuing here. Like he actually throws a blanket on to run through the fire and then just stands there in the middle of the vessel with them.
Well, that's the thing I was concerned about, is he just stands there. He doesn't try to get them out of the fire.
And then we see them, ultimately, the three of them swimming. And we sort of pray to God at this point in time that it was automation and not some hapless crew that is now being dragged underwater from the burning flames of that boat.
We have seen in multiple episodes that M.A.S.K cares little for the lives of non-series characters. Venom henchmen, it can be Aboriginal peoples in Australia on a big giant tornado machine ship. But they don't seem to care or think about anyone else other than the named characters in the show. If you don't have a name in an episode of M.A.S.K, it's not good. Something bad's going to happen to you. Anyways, Matt's going to send Scott and T-Bob off to a hotel.
I mean, let's take the positive on this one. Matt is making sure that they have a place to stay, okay? It is not like in the past where he's like, hey, Scott, T-Bob, go to the observatory and just go on this like dusty desert wasteland on your own. So it's like, oh, I'm going to make sure. But again, Matt's going to be leaving Scott and T-Bob alone in a foreign country where they do not speak the language, just in a random hotel.
With a heat ray that clearly, I mean, they don't know anything just yet, but you'd have to surmise that Venom knew Matt was there and was targeting the sailboat, because otherwise it's far too random their sailboat to catch on fire.
It really is.
Matt and Bruce go off and do some investigating in Thunderhawk. They discover a giant burnt circle in the middle of the road somewhere. It looks like the road actually melted. And they realize it must have been the same thing that hit their boat. Matt discovers the direction the blast of heat came from, and then they take off into the sky, and they can't find the source of it. But they do find a theme park called Solaria Park with a giant statue of Zeus. It's their mascot, so it's not Mickey Mouse. It's Zeus. And Matt says the whole island is owned by an eccentric millionaire. Is it you, Matt? Are you the eccentric millionaire?
I was wondering where he like found out about this. Again, is there a travel magazine that he's like, oh, there's an eccentric billionaire? But that's it. I mean, like, he doesn't give the name of the eccentric billionaire. So then it's like, well, how did he find out about it? Let us say it is a travel article. That means that the travel article writer had to write down, oh, this new Solaria Park, which is owned by a secretive, eccentric millionaire. Like, that's the actual words that have to be in there, because otherwise you just know nothing about this person.
Also, I'm going to say here, just from the overhead view of Solaria Park, it's like the crappiest theme park I've ever seen. A merry-go-round. And that's it? A few carnival games?
Yeah, there might be like a roller coaster, maybe.
For an eccentric millionaire, doesn't have much of an imagination.
They blew the budget on the giant statue of Zeus.
And the heat ray.
And the heat ray.
Matt says, I'm punching this spot and the location of our ship. Thunderhawk's navigational computer should be able to triangulate and give me the location.
All right, we're going to have to go to math corner here for a minute. So in math, you have, when we say the word triangulate, like literally the word triangle is in there. You actually need at least 3 points to do triangulation. We have 2 here. So just so aware, given 2 points, you can relate them with a straight line. So what Matt is saying is the computer will draw a straight line from the boat to this spot and then try and figure it out. Now, if you wanted to get really clever, which they didn't, you could be like, the temperature required to burn this asphalt was at this level. The temperature required to burn our boat was at this level, which means your heat dissipation would look like this, which would give you actually a distance along that line. But they didn't say any of that.
They do not do that.
No.
Well, it's Venom, PJ.
Oh, what?
Yes, because suddenly Switchblade shows up and fires at Thunderhawk. Bruce asks, is he the eccentric millionaire?
Which is such a weird line and never is answered. And there's like, I don't know, but he's sure mad about something. He's always mad about something.
Yeah, clearly they don't know how much Miles likes to laugh.
It's true. He loves laughing and enjoying his job. Did you find it weird that Thunderhawk, like, it had no early warning system? It's like not a huge number of Venom vehicles you have to do IFF on, identify friend or foe. But basically, Thunderhawk's just like hanging about. When Switchblade in helicopter mode, no less, not even coming in that fast, gets a shot off and just damages Thunderhawk.
There's a lot of questions about what technology Matt does not include in M.A.S.K helmets and vehicles, and this is yet another one of them. To get out of the way of Switchblade, Matt does a nosedive in Thunderhawk, and then he pulls up at the last minute and sails over these trees. But Switchblade apparently can't pull off the same maneuver in a very high-powered jet and gets trapped in the trees. Frankly, I don't understand how a Chevy Camaro with no aerodynamic properties whatsoever can pull off that maneuver, and Switchblade can't. Any thoughts on that?
I had to think through this one because I agree. So let's take the first part of it, which is that having Thunderhawk drop like a rock is totally within that capability. And Thunderhawk, just by the nature of it, has to be slower than Switchblade. It doesn't have the engine capacity to have something faster than Switchblade, unless there's something we're just completely unaware of. My only thing was that it's possible that Switchblade's speed in this case actually is working against it, because a turboprop plane, like those crop duster type stuff, can actually pull off low, slow maneuvers that a jet can't. Now, a jet will destroy it by basically just like looping around, coming back, and shooting out of the sky. But again, if you believe that Thunderhawk can fly and that it's slower, I might be able to see it. But Matt clearly is like giving the finger at some point in time to Miles as he's in those tree line. Why not stop him?
Yeah, he's stuck in the trees, fly back around, and drop some bombs.
Yeah, it's just like, all right, we're done.
We know it's Venom now. And so Matt calls the computer in Boulder from the computer in Thunderhawk, and we nosedive into the agent selection scene. First up, Bruce Sato. That's good. It sort of gives Matt a thumbs up and a wink.
Yeah, it was a fun little thing. He's like, yep, I'm already here, Matt. So we don't have to have an awkward conversation about why the computer didn't pick me. I did think it would be fun if Bruce had suddenly just jumped out of Thunderhawk, just out of instinct more than anything else. Like, oh, I got to run. Oh, wait, no, I'm already here.
Next up is Brad Turner. But this is a lazy repeat. He's just playing alone in the studio. He gets the call and he runs out. Just phoning it in like much of the rest of this episode. Someone who never phones it in is Hondo McClane, our next agent. He's in his office grading papers. He gets the call and he shrugs and he runs out. And I was pleased that at least he didn't throw a book at someone.
I know. It was a pretty subdued exit, I'll say, for Hondo, because, you know, Hondo and Buddy definitely like compete for that biggest jerk in terms of leaving their jobs. Not this time.
I mean, he had a big stack of papers, so maybe grades were due. Like everyone's waiting on it. The registrar wants to close up the semester. but they can't because Hondo hasn't graded the papers.
Timmy needs to send that transcript to Harvard, and he's not going to be able to. So, like, that just blows his dreams of a scholarship and pulling his way out.
Now that is very Hondo. Next up is Dusty Hayes. Another repeat. He's at the pizza shop, spinning dough, gets the call, and he drops it and runs out. This time he is humming a little tune, though, so there's that.
I kind of liked the idea of reinforcing with Brad his loneliness of just being in the studio by himself. And in this case, I kind of like the idea that the same kid came back after the last time Dusty pulled this shit. And now Dusty's just doing it again.
The final member of the team, Gloria Baker, champion race driver, black belt in Kung Fu, team hottie. She's in a dressing room, holding up a dress to see if she likes it. Not trying it on, mind you, just holding it up in the mirror. And she gets the call and calmly hands the dress to a clerk and walks, not runs, out. Fascinating.
Really fascinating. I did wonder, is she seeing if she's going to like it or if she thinks that Matt's going to like it?
We know it's about Matt.
We know the answer.
But she doesn't run.
No.
She clearly has a pattern of not wanting to get to Boulder very quickly after jumping out of numerous vehicles when she gets the call and running. And now she's at a mall, which could be presumably in Boulder, so she's not too far away. But she just waltzes her way out of the store. Maybe she likes to make Matt wait. She's playing hard to get.
Oh, part of this game that they play, these two.
Caught in this dance. Also, one thing that finally came to my mind for the first time is that the computer never once chooses Matt for a mission.
It's true. I really would love to hear the computer's assessment of Matt. I think it would go along the lines of he's a billionaire man-child with too much time on his hands, yet not enough for his adopted son, flies Thunderhawk. And maybe that's why Matt basically like hits mute every single time, like before it gets to him.
The team, aside from Matt and Bruce, are being briefed at M.A.S.K headquarters. And they learn the deal, and they're going to go off and meet them in Greece. And then they go into the radiation chamber of death to get their masks, and they head off. We cut to a hotel where Scott is shopping for new yachts, just going through a magazine, shopping for yachts. What an entitled little man he is.
This is all he knows, though. This is the problem, is that he's shopping for new yachts, and it's a lot of responsibility for a kid. But I think this is the last time we see him in the entire episode.
Until the more you know segment at the end.
We get this little cutaway to Scott, which advances the story not at all.
Not at all. It just shows him shopping for yachts. Like all the 8-year-old kids who were watching the show during our day. Shopping for yachts.
We wanted to write something in that would really connect with the youth. And we figured the two beats of the scene are shopping for yachts and having your toy giant robot fall into the water and not kill someone.
You and I are in our single-parent homes eating generic Frosted Flakes, watching a kid shop for yachts. Cool, man. Very cool. Also, T-Bob falls into the pool, and it's a good thing he is waterproof because he would have electrocuted everyone in there.
Again, we don't see anyone else. So actually, I do have a concern. Yes, he's at a hotel. Is this hotel populated with anyone else, or has it been abandoned?
The team is finally assembled. They're all gathered together. And Brad is like, so this is Greece. And Gloria says, it's beautiful. Like, clearly, Brad is just here for the fun of it. He's just sightseeing.
It's absolutely true. I just want to do another time check. It takes 13 hours to fly from Denver to Greece, best case scenario. What the hell is anyone else doing?
I know. They're not even hanging out with Scott at the hotel.
Matt and Bruce, for 13 hours, are doing their best to avoid these guys. And at that level, it's like it would have to be the next day because we know that the sun is shining again.
Right.
Even if it was let's say it's 6 a.m. Let's not even say 11. Let's say it was 6 a.m. previously. That means that it's like 7 p.m. by the time M.A.S.K shows up.
Yeah. So they're just driving around in Thunderhawk, talking about their feelings. Well, we learn they have to go across the Aegean Sea to get to Solaria Park. Condor takes off. Gator transforms into boat mode. Thunderhawk takes off, but we have Firecracker there. And Hondo very astutely says, Matt, I hate to complain, but Firecracker can't fly. And I guess my question is, why did they bring Firecracker if they had to travel over water?
I don't know, because it's not as if it's going to especially do much this episode. My thought is you're in the water. Shark, which is Gloria's vehicle, transforms into a submarine, wouldn't that be a better choice to have?
Yeah, and I thought, even if it's like the agents have to go with their vehicles, so yes, Hondo would have to bring Firecracker. I was like, okay, so it means he's going to use Blaster in the episode. Not once.
Nope.
Another episode goes by and Hondo does not use Blaster at all, which would actually come in really handy in this episode.
Yes, it would.
Doesn't use it at all. Well, Bruce says in response to Hondo, the bird of prey has not only wings for flying, but feet for lifting. First of all, they're not feet, Bruce. They're talons. But anyways, the point is Bruce uses lifter to carry Firecracker along with them.
I had a really disturbing thought about how far this metaphor is getting pushed. A bird of prey uses its talons, or its quote-unquote feet, for capturing prey in order to eat them. So if Thunderhawk is the bird of prey and Lifter is the feet, does that make Firecracker the prey? Are they going to eat Hondo later on? Like, should we be concerned here?
Maybe, because Hondo really goes through the ringer during this trip over the Aegean Sea, as we will find out in a moment. Suddenly, Piranha shows up in sub mode, fires a torpedo at Gator. Switchblade fires on Thunderhawk, which has to swerve, causing Firecracker to get jostled. And Hondo says, I feel like a baby in a cradle. That's a pretty weird metaphor, Hondo.
Yeah, Hondo, how do you think babies are supposed to be swung? But can we talk about Brad is kind of a jerk at this point in time because he sees Piranha. He just warns Gator, doesn't do any proactive thing. And once again, it's like, with the exception of Hondo, all these guys are trained to be reactive constantly. Another Science Corner note, what's fired is a heat-seeking torpedo, which does not exist. It's a terrible weapon because infrared light does not transmit underwater. You effectively are dealing with the mean temperature of the water around you at that point in time, which the Aegean would be fairly warm. So in kind of a hunt for Red October, if that thing arms itself right away, the hottest source right near it is going to be Piranha itself.
What's crazy, though, is the torpedo does, in fact, lock on to Gator, which must have the hottest motor. It is radioactive, like it's plutonium propelled, so maybe.
What if it's this, though? What if, like, the science division said, okay, this is going to lock on to the very specific radiation emitted by the M.A.S.K vehicles, and Sly's like, oh, you mean it's a heat-seeking torpedo? Okay. And they're like, no, it's not a heat-seeking torpedo. No, it's a heat-seeking torpedo. Like, he just can't get it through his head that it's anything other than that.
Sure, I'll give him that. But Dusty can't shake it. He can't shake that torpedo. Brad's lasers can't even get the torpedo because it's too deep. What's going to happen, PJ?
I don't know. It's so scary.
We'll find out after these messages.
We've got him in sight. Hold on. M.A.S.K will be right back. Now watch what M.A.S.K does.
And we're back, and when we left you, Dusty and Gloria were doomed. The torpedo was coming right towards them. They were going to blow up, and it's going to be the end of them. But don't worry, dear listener. They fire a whirlpool depth charge.
Oh, thank God.
Which generates a giant water spout, which seems, frankly, way more dangerous than a torpedo. Like, they can all get sucked into it. But it sucks up the torpedo. Gloria uses aura to deflect the torpedo back towards Slyrax. And, we get out of trouble there.
I'll tell you my theory. We have established many times, partially by our own words, Gloria is an adrenaline junkie. So I think this mission, like, it has not been exciting enough for Gloria because she is the one that suggests this radically dangerous maneuver. It's like, nope, we got to do it this way. Are you sure, Aura can't work on it? Nope. Fire the whirlpool depth charge.
It's true. She doesn't even try using aura.
No.
Underwater. And not just any depth charge. The whirlpool depth charge. Well, that takes care of Piranha. But Switchblade is still following Thunderhawk. So Hondo uses his Hypno headlights on Mayhem, a new power that the headlights apparently have, so they don't just get super bright. He uses Hypno headlights, which kind of lulls Mayhem into sleep, basically. And Mayhem puts Switchblade into autopilot mode before he passes out.
It is pretty weird thing that leads to a lot of very interesting questions.
Yeah.
Can't Hondo use Blaster to just knock Switchblade out?
Yeah, I thought that was the plan.
Yeah. We've seen Hondo use Blaster very effectively in the past.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take the Hypno headlights, though, at face value. So you're going to put the pilot of an airplane to sleep, the only pilot of that airplane to sleep. And I guess you have zero idea whether or not an autopilot actually exists. Wouldn't that mean that Miles will crash and that will kill him?
Yeah, either way, whether it's Blaster or the Hypno headlights, Hondo's going in for the kill.
Yeah, he really is. I think he's tired of this BS, and he's like, you know what? I'm just going to take this down. Why hasn't this been used in the past? It actually seems like a great way to like take down Venom by putting him to sleep.
Or if they're Hypno headlights, yeah, put him to sleep, that's fine, but why not hypnotize him to do something? Hypnotize him to turn around and fly somewhere else, or to reveal their dastardly plan. No, it's just to put him to sleep, which will then crash the jet, kill Mayhem, and probably piss off Matt, because Matt does not want Mayhem dead.
Also, whatever collateral damage occurs from the crashing of that jet.
Exactly. Gloria and Dusty, they try to catch Sly on the shore, but Sly escapes magically, which at least they're trying, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, they're trying to do something here. And because Sly goes flying out of Piranha, like, ridiculously. Like, that guy, how he does not have a broken neck constantly, I have zero idea.
We've got Gloria, Dusty, and Hondo now on the shore, and Matt decides that he and Brad are going to go flying off in pursuit of Miles. But Matt just says, Hondo, stay behind and investigate the island. What does he expect Gloria and Dusty to do?
Just hang out.
Just, you watch the sand. Make sure nothing gets disturbed.
To be fair, Hondo has proven to be the most competent mask agent constantly.
Yeah, I'll give him that. So they're off in pursuit of Miles, who has switched Switchblade into autopilot mode, and it's doing a great job flying itself there.
It does an amazing job. Most autopilots just keep you straight. This one is doing these maneuvers. It's going around a rock outcropping, and it enters into the secret rock outcropping, which is a really hard maneuver to pull off, especially in jet mode.
It's a hard right into this
Yeah.
hidden door that opens in a mountain and then closes. And because of that, the masked team can't find him. So they all gather back together to figure out what to do next. And they're wondering, should they search the whole island? And Bruce, who's got a lot of zingers this episode, says, dig not with the hands when the shovel lies waiting. And good old Dusty says, oh, Bruce, holy cow. So there's your Buddy Hawks Award nomination of the episode. And Matt explains, he just means whatever Venom's up to, Solaria Park must be involved. And there you have, right after it, Matt's leap of logic of the episode.
It's amazing. It's what?
Yeah, and he looks so smug when he says it too. I actually paused it at that moment to type some stuff into the rundown here, and I happened to pause it on the smuggest look Matt has ever had.
I sometimes wonder, like, I mean, because he doesn't get as bad as brutalizing his folks as, let's say, like Miles shitting on Cliff.
Mm-hmm.
But there's times he comes close where he just really wants him to feel bad.
I'll go back to the Star Chariot episode where he says that Dusty has an empty teepee, meaning his brain. That's pretty harsh.
It's true. It's just true. I wonder if Dusty and Cliff ever get together and they just drink and talk about how much they're being brutalized by their bosses.
I bet they actually get along really well.
I think so, too.
Well, the team goes to Solaria Park, and Brad says, boy, look at all the rides. This place will be great when it opens. Again, just proving Brad is here for the fun.
Brad's just wanna have fun.
Well, I hope I don't get sued for that. But yeah, he's like, hey, y'all go look for the stuff. I'm going to check out the Ferris wheel. There's no line.
You're going to smoke this ahead of time and go enjoy the Ferris wheel.
Also, I'll just point out again, it's the crappiest amusement park I've ever seen. It's like Coney Island, but less fun, or the pier at Santa Monica. Anyways, we cut to Venom's underground lair, and the whole gang is there. Miles, Sly, Cliff, Vanessa. And Miles says, in due time, I'll unleash enough power to control the entire Mediterranean area. Again, for what reason? First of all, he doesn't say the entire Mediterranean Sea. He says the area, whatever that is, because it's a pretty big area. And then why? Why does he want to control this quote-unquote Mediterranean area?
I don't know if the tourist situation was better in the 80s for Greece, but I will say that the economic situation in Greece over the last couple of decades was so bad, there was threats of economic contagion basically taking down Europe before Germany bailed them out. So it's like really questionable why Miles, who seems pretty monetarily focused, wants to take over here. I had an idea maybe he was trying to disrupt trade, but you should also be aware of the particular strategic value the Mediterranean has. It is a major egress for military vessels from the Soviet Union via the Black Sea. And so this actually might constitute a joint effort by NATO and the Warsaw Pact to take Miles down.
And there's also the Suez Canal there as well.
Correct.
So there's a lot of military activity there, which would actually be a great idea, Miles. You want to control the Mediterranean, especially the Eastern Mediterranean, because you want to be able to defeat all of the world's militaries, or at least all the world's navies, with your giant heat ray. Great idea. Does he say it? No. Once again, no reason. Just likes the Mediterranean. And who doesn't, Miles? It's a beautiful area. The climate's great. The food is wonderful. The people are wonderful. That's fine. But just give me a reason.
Instead of taking all that money to build this stuff, maybe you should just invest in some real estate there if you love it that much.
Exactly. You're an eccentric millionaire, apparently. So M.A.S.K splits up at Solaria Park to investigate. And Dusty and Gloria are together. And Dusty says, "Come on, Gloria, let's start in the funhouse." Gloria laughs and says, "You never change, do you, Dusty?" Dusty just kind of shrugs. And I kind of agree. Like, what is she talking about? Anyways, the whole team, they just find buildings full of mirrors. No rides, no games, just mirrors. And it's clearly some Banksy-esque art piece about how when you go to an amusement park, you're not looking to find fun. You're actually looking to find yourself.
I love this line you've got going on here of just like, hey, it's not an amusement park. It's the concept of an amusement park. And we want you to face off with what is actually going inside of you. Miles has been theatrical, and now he's philosophical with these funhouse mirrors. He's taking it to the next level.
Matt says nothing in Solaria Park is real except these silly mirrors. And a piece of him died that day, PJ. Matt believed in Solaria Park. There was truly magic in that place. That a man, no matter how old, could become a boy again and enjoy the pure joy of life one more time. But now Matt knows for sure that dream is dead. Because nothing in Solaria Park is real. It's just smoke and mirrors, PJ.
I love this idea that he read an article about this place and then became so emotionally invested as a way of trying to recapture his lost innocence that now it's like he's come face to face with it and he realizes it's just a facade. You know what the real nature of Matt's mask is, Adam?
What is it?
To hide his tears, his deep, troubled tears.
Yeah, he did found this to avenge the death of his brother that he never talks about. So I'd imagine there's some trauma he's processing here. But he can't even process it at Solaria Park because it's not real. Brad wonders where the bad guys are. And Bruce says, the farther the water goes out, the bigger the wave that returns. And I guess he's kind of right, because suddenly, a moment later, these giant mirrors explode from buildings and underneath the ground. And M.A.S.K is in this wild race to get out of there before they get trapped. And I just want to point out, this whole time, Gator, in boat mode, is sitting in Firecracker's flatbed, pointed backwards. And Dusty and Gloria are just sitting in Gator, in the boat. Like, at least get inside a Firecracker.
I know they have the masks on, which protect their faces. Yeah. We're talking about like a lot of potential broken glass or just rubble coming up from everywhere. You might want to just like get inside a vehicle.
And also, I mean, you know, Firecracker does a quick turn. Gator falls out of the flatbed.
Yeah, right.
It's not strapped down. It's like precariously placed in the. It's like a jet ski just kind of dumped in the back. Anyways, fun escape sequence though, right? They're trying to get away. These mirrors are popping up all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, there's something about it that's engaging. I will say that this might be Brad just wanting to have some fun. He flies Condor, which is the vehicle that can get away the easiest. But Brad chooses to fly this underneath a very low amusement park sign because apparently he needs to do it.
Again, Brad is there for the fun, period. That's it.
It's true.
We find out that somehow Venom will be able to collect sunlight in all these mirrors and use the mirror on the statue of Zeus's lightning bolt. You still following me here? To fire a heat ray in any directions. and apparently bombs won't work against it for some unknown reason.
All right, let's go to Science Corner. Solar collectors are a thing. Most of the time, the way that solar panels work is that it is taking photons and effectively running an LED in reverse. An LED, you fire electricity to emit a photon. A solar panel absorbs a photon to emit electricity. That's not how solar collectors work. The way solar collectors work is that these mirrors are used to focus the sun's rays onto a limited area. And the solar collector, at least in California, has a steam engine that it uses. You're heating up water to pass it through to run a turbine, et cetera, et cetera. That is how it works. But yeah, it's a thing. And yes, it is true that birds that fly over this thing are regularly burned to death by virtue of passing over this stuff. It is worthwhile to say that the structure that is in like the largest one only gets about 40% of its efficiency. Yeah. And they're like, oh, it's due to like clouds or rain. So like you don't actually need to do much here other than wait for a cloudy day. And then basically Venom's pretty screwed.
It can burn a bird to death, but let's just say I'm in a jet and I fire a rocket at it. Can it blow up a rocket?
It's unlikely to be able to pull that off, especially if you fire off like a lot of rockets. I mean, these are encased in metal, so you'd have to actually like heat it up enough to get through the metal and try and ignite whatever's inside of there. But it's going to be going really quick.
M.A.S.K writers, please work with us.
Help us here. Help us understand why.
We're trying. Miles says he's going to give them a taste of just minimum power, which is pretty strong. Don't get me wrong. But why wouldn't he just open it up full blast on them? Doesn't he want M.A.S.K dead?
No, it's not that he doesn't. I even think like Miles is hitting a point where he realizes his own stupidity of his plan. Like there's just so much trouble I went to make the park, to get that article written, to set up all these things. And now he's like, I can't threaten anybody with this thing. I don't know if he's hoping to have an evil tax write-off at this point in time. And he's hoping M.A.S.K is going to destroy it. But it's just, why wouldn't you?
Maybe it is all for tax write-offs. Maybe that's Venom's entire purpose, is a giant tax write-off for Miles, that he just depreciates all this stuff and takes the hit for all his failed projects. The giant submarine, the giant tornado machine, now this giant heat ray. All of them are complete disasters and probably cost hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars. You know, if Venom's a proper company, he writes that off. So maybe it's great for the shareholders?
Maybe he's like he is like building subdivisions in the Midwest. And that's actually like the real thing, is how he's actually hiding all that money is by virtue of these boondoggles.
It's all to fund his racing team from season 2. We have the big M.A.S.K Venom battle of the episode breaking out here. And I just want to point out again that throughout, Gloria and Dusty remain in Gator in the back of Firecracker. The heat ray manages to have some effect. It actually damages Condor. And then Matt does something absolutely bizarre. He parks Thunderhawk on the top of one of the mirrors, and then Firecracker and Gator fire their freeze rays at Thunderhawk. Gloria uses Aura to nudge Thunderhawk as an ice cube, sliding down the mirror to cause Miles to fire the heat ray at Thunderhawk. As it goes down, Thunderhawk hits the base of the statue and blows up, bringing the statue down. That is the most convoluted M.A.S.K plan to destroy a Venom MacGuffin so far in the series. None of it makes any sense whatsoever.
One thing I meant to point out earlier is that these mirrors necessarily are facing inward towards their focal point, but you could blow out the backs of them really freaking easily. There's nothing to say that you don't just take out the entire structure from behind, and Miles can't shoot you because he'd be shooting at his own mirrors.
And do any M.A.S.K powers give you the ability to fire laser blasts?
Almost so you want something that's like a blaster. Maybe
It's a complete waste of Thunderhawk.
It really is. There's no reason for it other than I'm going to blow up Thunderhawk. It's a bad plan, but they at least try to pull together these mask powers in some kind of combination, as convoluted as it is. Just to be like, teamwork is all about working together.
Look, this was the worst Venom plan so far, simply because there was no plan. Miles went halfway. He built a heat ray. To do? No idea. So I guess M.A.S.K uses their worst plan ever to defeat Venom's worst plan ever. So a little tit for tat there. Okay, that's fine. Again, no need to sacrifice Thunderhawk. I can't think of any reason other than tax write-offs, right?
Tax write-offs. You know, let's call it what it is. Venom and M.A.S.K really phoned it in this episode. Miles and Sly are the only Venom agents to have a line. I actually was noticing that Cliff is there. He doesn't say anything. Vanessa is there. She doesn't say anything. And, you know, when they're all together, maybe Sly also says, we all got to get out of here. And then he also has his heat-seeking torpedo bit. But besides that, that's it. Everyone's just tired.
I will say this again. I know I said it in the last episode, and I will not belabor the point in future episodes, dear listener, so I apologize, but I just have to say it again. If you're writing a show where the characters have masks with powers and vehicles that transform to do cool things, pick the characters for the episode that have mask powers that you want to use in the episode, and the villains too, by the way, and the vehicles whose abilities you want to use in the episode. And then leave out the characters that you don't need their vehicles or their mask powers for. It's pretty simple to write an episode with that kind of sandbox around it. And they just continue to not do that at all. Hondo was really not necessary in this episode. He uses the hypno headlights, right?
And the freeze ray. So it was two things. I got it wrong earlier.
But Gator has a freeze ray. I don't know. I have no words. Look, and I'm not saying I'm the best writer in the world either. But let's just use our brains and do some simple, basic writing 101.
This is the Chekhov's mask problem. Like, if you're going to show a mask in the first act, you better damn well make sure it's used in the third.
Absolutely, PJ. You nailed it right there. One of the final lines in the episode, this comes from Dusty. He says, at 7 years per mirror, I bet Venom just landed 60 million years of bad luck.
And then they all laugh. They all laugh uproariously. And you know what is a great thing about this, Adam?
What?
They're not laughing at something racist. They are laughing at Venom's incompetence, and that's a cut above what we've seen in the past.
Boy, it sure is. We fade out and we go to the More You Know segment. And Scott is working on a car that it's covered. So the car's covered. We can't see what car it is, but Scott is underneath it turning wrenches, doing something. And Matt and Bruce show up, and Matt says, "You're a little young to be working on a car, aren't you?" And, you know, Matt just wants to make sure that Scott's being safe. And Scott says that he's got the handbrake on really tight and all the wheels are blocked. Whose car is this anyway? Matt wants to know. And it turns out it's Thunderhawk. They built him a new one. And that's it, PJ. That's the end of the More You Know. What is the lesson? If you're a child and you're doing work on a car, make sure the handbrake is nice and tight and you have the wheels blocked off? Is that the lesson they're teaching kids in 1985?
This is my thing. This is what I was questioning. If you're having child labor be done, make sure it's as safe as possible. It's like Scott is working on Thunderhawk, which is, it's a flying Camaro, so it's an incredible piece of technology. So does that mean he is also well-versed in that technology? Because otherwise, I don't know if I want Scott working on Thunderhawk, randomly tightening the wrong things.
Yeah. And Bruce says, we all know how much you miss the old Thunderhawk, so we all work double time to get this new one ready.
Clearly that's false. We know M.A.S.K does not work overtime. They just run out on their jobs.
Exactly. And again, it does connect right to the episode, because Thunderhawk gets destroyed, and so they have to build him a new one. But this More You Know, and again, the More You Knows have been some of them have been very dramatic, like the child molester one. Most have been benign. Some have been a little bizarre, like the bike one in which Scott wasn't riding a bike at all. This one is just as lazy as the rest of the episode.
It's 100% right.
Kids, when you're turning wrenches underneath the car, make sure that handbrake is on.
Don't question why you're underneath those cars. Don't question why you're being forced to perform labor. Just make sure that it's as safe as possible to get Daddy another beer.
That's it for this episode. Episode 13 is called The Creeping Terror. Venom unleashes a horde of giant caterpillars to destroy a South American jungle in hopes of finding a lost Mayan temple. Without even watching the episode, you've got Torch on Cliff's helmet. Just torch the forest. You don't need to genetically engineer giant caterpillars to eat the forest.
Maybe Miles is like, he needs to get the forest torched, but he's actually very concerned from an environmental standpoint. So he wants the caterpillars to more naturally consume and then emit the refuse in order to repopulate the trees. I don't know, man. I'm out there at this point in time. I think Miles basically is just getting a little more, I don't know. It's got to get bigger and grander and weirder every single time.
Well, it's a lost Mayan temple. I'm hoping, against all hope, that we will not see any indigenous people in this episode. Not because I don't like indigenous people, but because of how M.A.S.K has traditionally handled the indigenous people in the episodes.
Are you saying that they're not always handled with the grace and cultural sensitivity that one would aspire to?
I will leave that up to the listeners to decide. This podcast does, in fact, have to transform and head back to HQ. We want to thank all of you awesome people for coming along on the ride for us here. I am Adam Moore.
And I am PJ McNerney.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
The Mobile Armored Podcast Show is written, produced, and edited by Adam Moore and PJ McNerney.